Okay, good afternoon, all. I'm conscious of time, so I think we're going to get rolling because we've got quite a few slides and things to get through, and people can just jump in later, those that are running late. So welcome to this Grow My SME webinar. You're all very welcome. Thank you for joining us. These webinars, just as a bit of background, are part of the Grow My SME program that the Humber Growth Hub run. And it's one of a number of initiatives that they're running for businesses in the Humber region to help them thrive, survive, grow, innovate, future-proof, with a particular focus on adopting digital technology and recognizing the contributions that digital can make to your business and help you move forward and drive you forward. So we have the webinar programs, and there's lots and lots of different subjects that these cover. There's lots and lots of webinars from all different experts, and I'll tell you more about these as we go through, and there's some links for you to have a look at. But also this wider support in more tailored one-to-one direct support that you can receive, where you can have consultants come into your business all completely free of charge, and they come and work with you to help you adopt digital technology, help you look at new ideas, new ways of presenting your business, new product ideas, etc., etc. And we'll be talking a lot about that towards the end of the webinar, so stick around for that, because it would be very useful for you to access. But ultimately, this is all about trying to help businesses survive and push forward and avoid disruption. And of course, we're all in a mass amount of disruption at the moment. I don't say the C word, but COVID, I'll say it just once, is here, and most sectors have been affected by it in some vein or other. And so, you know, these support channels are here to try and help you navigate this and drive forward. My name's Wayne Willis. I'm one of the partners and consultants at Idenic Group. I'm joined by Rob Lewis. You can see on the camera there, my other colleague, Jamie Del Grosso. And to give you a little bit of background, Idenic Group is an innovation consultancy. We work with brands and organizations all around the world to help them develop innovation within their own organizations, set up innovation strategies, and build a culture of innovation within their company, so that, as I've just said, they can continue to grow, they can be agile, they can move about, and ultimately avoid disruption and have a strong future. And that's what we're set up to do. And so we're one of the consultants that come on for the Growth Hub to deliver some webinars around these areas to give you basically a top level overview of some of the things that you might need to be aware of or getting involved in, and be implemented in your own business. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about all things immersive. And as it says, it's reality, Jim, but not as we know it. And that's, you know, that's essentially the theme of the webinar today. So virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. These are probably all terms that you've heard or seen on the internet or via TV, or maybe experienced directly and had a go at if you've got game consoles at home, etc. And I'm sure you'll have seen it all over LinkedIn and things like that as well. Really, what we're going to do today is try and just give you an overview as to what these immersive technologies are, what the difference is between them all, how they work, and how they're impacting businesses at the moment, how businesses are adopting these for all sorts of different measures, and for growth and new value offerings for the customers, and to reduce costs, etc., etc. So hopefully we'll be able to give you a good overview of that. What I am conscious of is that we're all attending lots of Zoom calls and Teams calls and webinars and things at the moment, and we try to make these things not death by webinar, so to speak. So as much interaction as possible is always welcome. So please do ask us any questions as we go through. There's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen there, or if you want to type a comment in the chat, please do so. And we'll try and answer them as we go through, and if we don't get time, we'll hopefully cover them at the end. But ultimately, you know, we want to try and tailor as much of the information we're given to your own circumstance, and if we can answer any direct questions, then we're very happy to do so. So with that, I think I'll hand over to Rob, who's going to take us through today's presentation, and hopefully you find it insightful. Rob, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Hi, everyone. As Wayne said, we're going to talk about mixed reality, which includes augmented reality and virtual reality and a few other things, actually. But it's all interlaced with technology. And just to echo what Wayne said, please feel free to ask us questions, because we really value hearing what you think about what we're telling you. Also, if we're not telling you anything clearly enough, please shout out, and we'll handle questions through chat. So as Wayne said, we're from a company called Idenic Group. We we're effectively an innovation consultancy, but we specialize in disruptive innovation, and technology comes into that. We actually have quite a lot of experience of working with AR and VR for clients. So we're going to reflect our views on that and tell you about some of the cool things we've seen, and give you our perspective on it. So just to check in a bit on the Dennett Group, we approach innovation thinking about three things usually, and we call these the 3Ds. So it's be disruptive, think differently, and embrace digital. So be disruptive. We've all heard about industries that have been disrupted by things like Uber or Airbnb, etc. So we have processes and ways of thinking to help companies basically be disruptive and stay ahead of that curve in order to continue to make money and survive and prosper, and not be disrupted themselves. A big part of that is thinking differently, which is our second D. So in order to be disruptive and to do more innovative things, it often requires companies to think differently. So we try and stimulate that. And then finally, and really where this presentation comes in, is about embracing digital. So digital is a catalyst for being disrupted, and a lot of the classic examples of companies that have been disrupted have been done so by digital technologies. And that's because these technologies have given us a new way to do things, which have found adoption, and eventually displaced the people who were doing it before. So we also think about how we help people embrace digital. And we'll just quickly check in on that a little bit. So embracing digital, it doesn't mean that everything should be digital, because you could literally digitize everything in some kind of way, but we should use digital where it makes sense and where it offers meaningful benefits. But really, technology provides us an amazing opportunity to do really cool things and really disruptive things, and basically improve experience for consumers and customers and the way we do our business. So we're not saying, as I said, we're not saying everything should be digital, but it should always be considered as an opportunity to innovate. And if you are looking to innovate, you should try and plug into it. And VR and AR have been around for quite a while now, but they're becoming more and more ubiquitous, and there are lots of opportunities to do innovation with that, and we're going to take you through some of those with this presentation. So just thinking about what is digital. So if you are a traditional business, then you may be asking yourselves, what is digital technology? Is it just having an app or a social media site? But primarily we use this definition. So it's effectively the use of physical technology, which is hardware, or virtual technology, which is software, to basically aid a function or an operation. So it might be how you get your product to your customers, it might be the product or service you provide to them, or it might be the way you communicate with your customers and consumers. There are lots of different ways that these things can be applied, either through hardware or software. And the reason why digital is having such a remarkable effect is that it is advancing at a ridiculously fast rate. This is some research that's been done in looking at how technology advances over time, and this is a horizon of 20 years. And what it's showing is that if we're at year one, so today, 2020, in 5 years' time, in 2025, technology will be 32 times more advanced, so 32 times more capable. And if we advance another 5 years to plus 10 years, it's 1,000 times more advanced. And if we look 20 years hence, then it's 1,000,000 times more advanced. So what this is saying is the technology we have today will only get better. And we've got a caption on there saying technology will never be as slow as it is today. So in other words, if you don't feel like you can benefit from technology today, just wait a short period of time and you will see that you'll be able to do lots of things that you weren't able to do today in the very near future. And when we cast forward 2, 5, 10 years, then actually we have a remarkable increase in our capability. The things that we can't do today will be possible very, very shortly. We need to plan for that future and how we're going to adapt and change our businesses and our services and our offerings to our customers and consumers to make pace of that technological change. And we can all look backwards as well. So I think the first smartphones came around in 2007, which doesn't seem that long ago really, but look how far that's come in that short period of time. So we can learn from what's happened, but we can see looking forward that we're just going to get better and better capability. So there's an exciting future ahead for us, and AR, mixed reality, and virtual reality really fit into that future. So really, what these terms, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, there are probably some other ways people are talking about this. We're going to tell you a little bit about how they're defined, what they are, and what do they mean. And hopefully we do that clearly. But as I said, please ask us some questions if you don't see it. If you don't get the answers you're asking for. So just going back to one of the concepts we talked about in digital earlier, you can pretty much digitize everything, but should you digitize everything? And you've probably heard the question of an MVP. So in technology, we often talk about an MVP. So rather than waiting to develop a fully formed product, you develop a minimum viable product. That's the minimum product you can feel you can launch that has that fulfills the benefit that it's aimed to fulfill. But you don't wait till that product's absolutely ideal and everything's polished and it's got every single feature you will ever need in it. And this is the MVP that Google made when they made Google Glass. So going back sort of 5 or 6 years ago, Google started to talk about smart technologies for glasses and having interactivity through the field of view. And when they did that, they didn't. When they started that project to prototype it, they basically took a pair of spectacles and stuck some technology on the side of it just to get a feel of how that product works. And that's effectively an MVP. But I'm going to also suggest we put another M in MVP and talk about meaningful. So minimum meaningful viable products. So as I said before, you can digitize everything, but should you digitize everything, that the technology that you put into things should have a meaningful benefit to a consumer. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time, it's a waste of money, and it's probably not going to get used. And Google Glass was a really good example of this because at the time, it didn't work very well. It didn't offer a meaningful benefit to people, and the technology looked and felt a bit clunky, and it didn't last very long. But we're now seeing the next wave of smart glasses coming on where they've actually addressed that, created a meaningful, viable product. So I'm also going to just play a video in the next slide, I think, which is really talking about mixed reality and augmented reality and VR and how noisy that can be and how distracting it could be potentially if we make everything digital and really deploy AR and VR across everything we do. So this video is actually 6 minutes long. So I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a flavor of it. But I would suggest you check it out online. Just pause. So I wanted to pause it and give you an intro first. The video that I'm going to show you is actually an art project in Colombia where they looked at a future world and looked at if we deploy AR and VR to its fullest extent, what that world might feel like to a user. And it's a fairly dystopian view of what technology can do to us. So I'm just demonstrating as an example of why not everything has to be digital. So I'll just play a minute of it.
Rob,
sorry,
just
Wayne.
before you play, just to say, I'm aware that the sound's jumping about a bit. Rob, I know your voice is in and out a little bit. So when the video plays, it might come across quite loud. So just be aware of your volume. You don't want to blow anybody's ears off if they've got headphones in.
All right, cheers, Wayne.
Fantastic. Great. Nice. Great.
Más tarde, apúrate si quieres una buena calificación.
Voy lo más rápido que puedo.
¿Has pensado en correr? Es saludable y eficiente.
Seguro que no hay más trabajos disponibles. Yo estudié para ser profesora y estoy haciendo mercados.
Y además puedes quedarte con los puntos de fidelización. Eres una monje afortunada. Tienes que confiar en la aplicación. ¿Te sientes inspirada? Gracias. Chao.
¿Quién soy yo? No, eso no es lo que quiero decir. ¿Para dónde voy? Adiós.
Olá, me chamo Maria.
Right, guys, I'm just going to pause it there, but I think you get the idea. What this, as I said, it's effectively an art project to look at, to basically disclose what digital future could look like. And this lady sat on a bus effectively, and she's interacting with an AR/VR experience, either from wearing a headset or having some form of technology, maybe smart glasses. And she's seeing this digital overlay around the world. So it starts with her in the bus, and she's playing a game which looks something like Candy Crush, but she's doing it with gesture control, and it's all happening in front of her eyes. She gets a call, she can see the person, they're talking, When she gets off the bus, it tells her where to go. She's now in the street, and the whole street is effectively filled with digital information, which is very distracting, as you can see. And it's identifying where the road is and telling you when the traffic's going to be coming. It puts barriers up to make sure you don't go onto the road. Now, all of this stuff is actually possible today with the technology we have today, but I'm sure you would agree that this is a fairly sort of dystopian or unsettling way that I don't think any of us would like to live in a world where we have that much of an overpowering digital experience. So I'm just putting that in there to sort of make the point that digital can be used and it just shouldn't always be used. So now we're going to check into some of the technologies. So we'll start with virtual reality. The virtual reality has actually been around for a long time now. It was used medically, where you would effectively use a TV screen to create a virtual experience rather than a headset. And that's been probably like 30 or 40 years of technology there. Whereas now we're talking about virtual reality as a much more sort of an immersive environment where you actually wear a headset, and that headset takes you into a world where you can't, you're totally engrossed in what's being shown to you, the virtual reality environment, and it effectively replaces the view that you normally see. So you put a headset on, and all you can see is what's actually in your field of view in the headset. So it's kind of an isolating experience, and it cuts out the rest of the world and takes you somewhere new. And for that reason, it's really popular in gaming and entertainment for obvious reasons. And it's there to create an immersive environment. And we'll talk about some of the cons about it later, but let's talk about some examples of it. So firstly, talk about gaming. So you've probably seen some videos like this before, but this guy's got a virtual headset on. He's wearing something on his wrists, which is allowing him to control a lightsaber-like device, and he's swatting away objects that are coming to him. So if you were stood in the room with him, you wouldn't see any of that digital information. Only he can see that through his visor. So you can see kind of like it's like a Wii on steroids, I suppose, but you can see how you can create a really immersive gaming an environment with this kind of technology. Another application for it is training. So it's used in training to create, an immersive environment like you're there, and it's often used to replace training environments that would be expensive or costly or dangerous to do in real life. And in this case, we're talking about surgery. So clearly, it's advantageous for a medic or a surgeon to be able to train in a virtual environment before they cut you open and make their mistakes on a real person. So the whole point of this is you create an environment where it can be done safely. And obviously here, this lady is effectively walking around in a room, but what she can see in front of her is a surgery with the bed. You could have a virtual patient on there. She's got all of the tools and equipment required to do the surgery. She can pick it up and she can effectively conduct the surgery. So it gives you a fairly immersive and realistic training experience without having to cut up a real person or a cadaver or an animal. So yes, it's used very commonly in the medical field. Another field that it's used in is again, there's no sound on this video, but I'll just play it. Is to be able to deploy training safely. So if you think about the offshore industry and like working on oil rigs or working in a fire environment or something highly hazardous, and this is the case of wind farms. So for those of you in the Humber region, that's obviously a very important industry or growing industry for us. And we know that Hull University are developing this technology, and Siemens use it, so that they can basically show someone how to go into a wind turbine and use the safety equipment appropriately. So you can see in this environment, it's showing them how to climb the stairs, use the harness to make sure they don't fall down. And clearly, this can be done in a really cheap way without having to drive someone to a wind turbine and expose them to the dangers and the risks of doing that operation. So again, you can see it's a really interesting environment to provide training from. The other thing is entertaining. So this is from the last Football World Cup, where this is actually a guy reviewing the BBC virtual reality experience. So quite a number of the matches in the last World Cup were created virtually with AR. And in this case, the guy's in his front room, he's looking at his TV with his headset on, and he's looking around the room, and it feels like he's in the actual studio where the commentary is happening. Then he looks out the window and he's looking at the match. So you can see his TV screen at the top, but he's also getting in the field of view the experience of looking around an actual football stadium. what he can then do is obviously then actually, well, not obviously, but what he can do then is actually choose where he wants to go and watch the match from. You can see in the reflection there his headset. So he's actually chosen to stand behind the goal in this case. So he's getting the sort of on-pitch experience of what's it like to be watching that match. As you can see, you can't actually see that much from where he stood at the moment. But with this technology, he can basically look at a number of different locations around the match from where it's been filmed. So you can get quite an immersive experience. And I think I'm probably not going to show the whole video, but there's a bit where there's a corner and he's effectively looking from behind the goal at the corner being taken. So it's a very different way of looking at sport, and arguably it's better than it's a more rich experience than what we do by just watching a normal TV. The last Olympics was also shown with this kind of technology as well, so it's used quite often for sport entertainment. The other side of entertainment, as Wayne mentioned before, we're not going to talk about coronavirus in here, but live entertainment has disappeared because of the need for social distancing. But services are popping up to allow you to experience live entertainment through VR. So this is a company called Melody VR, and they're effectively providing music shows through VR. So this is basically a guy who's probably booked to play to Academy in Brixton, but he's actually doing that, but doing it and delivering it to his audience through VR. So these platforms are looking at how they replace entertainment when you can't actually get there, and we can't get there today because of COVID, but there may be other reasons why we can't get there. We can't get a ticket, or it's in another country. Now, obviously, these experiences are kind of visually quite interesting, but you still don't get the experience of being there. You're not stood next to someone. You don't feel the atmosphere. You're just seeing it visually. But it's an interesting and growing use of the technology. Another really rational way of using VR is for medicine, and especially rehabilitative medicine. So I'll give you some examples of where that's been used. So this is a guy who's actually having physiotherapy, and he's doing it using VR. Arguably this is AR actually, but he's effectively doing some tasks, and in this task it's actually his physiotherapist is getting him to do a football exercise, which is helping him strengthen his legs. And it's been the virtual reality experience of doing that is on the screen, but on top of the screen is a photonic scanner, which is effectively measuring his movement, and he's kicking a virtual football on the screen into the goal, and that's effectively gamifying his physiotherapy exercise for his rehabilitative medicine. Here's another use of VR in medicine, where they're actually looking at using VR to treat Alzheimer's and dementia. So in this particular instance, they're creating a story or a history to stimulate memory in a person suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia. So they're looking at like family stories, maybe exploring things that have happened in history over the person's lifetime. And then they're using a technique called functional magnetic resonance imaging, which is basically looking at brain activity. So they're figuring out what stimulus is eliciting what response in the brain. And by doing that, they can tailor that person's environment so that they get more of what's effectively helping them to interact and enjoy the world. So, and it's also used in research as well to work out what stimuli and what memories are affecting what parts of the brain, and give people a personalised treatment plan. So it looks at which parts of the brain are healthy and which parts are not healthy. And as I said, helping them to deliver a training plan. So some quite interesting and serious uses of VR there in medicine, and there are many of them. The other interesting thing about VR is actually you can work collaboratively. So the guys in this picture here are actually using a technology called Magic Leap. So Magic Leap are, I think they're a US-based company, but they offer VR headsets which are, I suppose, a little bit more elegant than some of the ones that you can get. But they also have handsets which allow you to effectively interact with the virtual reality object that's in front of you. So you could literally stood with a group of your colleagues in a room with something augmented in front of you through VR, and you can all be looking at it at the same time. You'd all get it from your own perspective, and you can actually manipulate it and play with it. So in this case, it looks like some sort of medical application where they're presumably talking about something that's gone wrong in someone's skull by the look of it. But equally, it could be about designing a new object or a shared training experience for a piece of machinery or equipment. Yeah, and as I said, you can do this where everyone's in the room, but equally the 4 people on the left could all be in different rooms around the world, but looking at the same thing and interacting with it at the same time. So quite interesting way of working collaboratively and actually jointly manipulating something visual that you can all see at the same time, even though you may not be together. So that's virtual reality, and just some examples of cool things that we've seen, and some use case applications, training, medicine, etc. But you could find hundreds of examples of this. It's being used very, very widely, and now that you can buy virtual reality equipment as a consumer, it will gain more wide use. You can even use cardboard. Google Cardboard is like a little cardboard box that you put your phone screen into, and it actually creates virtual reality with your technology that's on your smartphone. So just thinking about VR, what's the point and when should we use it? So just to recap some of the things we said, VR is great for recreating a scenario or an environment that would be really expensive to get people to, or to create, or actually be hazardous or just unfeasible in the real world. So it's really good for training, simulations and demonstrations. So it can be done at a low cost without exposing people to danger, and it can be done safely. It creates an environment that's completely immersive, and it takes the person out of their real world and takes them to wherever the virtual reality experience is trying to recreate. And as we've said before, this can be done for entertainment, gaming, or for YouTube reasons. It's not so good for scenarios where people should actually still be aware of their surroundings, and where you might want to interact with things in the real world, because it takes you out of the real world. So for example, if you were in a museum, it could take your focus away from a collection where, where actually something like augmented reality could increase interaction. We'll talk about that later. So the summary is like AR is great for creating a really immersive environment, but it takes you out of that experience. So if you're trying to do something and you need to be aware of what else is happening in the room, it doesn't really work so well. It's also not so good if you need to buy equipment, so it's more expensive to deliver and deploy. And frankly, you look a bit stupid wearing a VR headset. So it's only ever really going to be used in closed environments where you're not having to walk on the road, etc. Or you want to look good. Okay, so this is actually a video. We're not going to play this video because it's actually I think it's about 8 minutes long, but it's a BBC video. You will get these slides, or these slides will be available for everyone. So I encourage you to watch it if you want to watch it later. But this is a classic application of VR in the emergency services. So it's talking about police people, fire services, and ambulance people, and looking at how we train them. And in this particular still here, the ladies were figuring out how to use a taser using VR. So obviously that's a dangerous thing to do. Obviously fighting a fire is a dangerous thing to do. So you can see really good applications of where VR can be used to train people, to give them enough skills to be able to go and do the task in a safer manner. For real when the need arises. So that's virtual reality. We're now going to talk about augmented reality and the difference. Okay, so augmented reality is effectively where you overlay digital assets or information into a real world environment. So think of it as like a digital skin over the real world. So you can still see the real world. You're still in the real world, but you're applying digital information over it. It's used quite a lot in social media, and we'll show some examples of that. And it's really to use to provide a digital skin to enhance information or interaction, but in the real world. Okay, and if that's not clear, hopefully it will become more clear as we talk about it with some examples. So social media, I don't use Snapchat, but my kids are all over it. And Snapchat is a classic technology where they're using augmented reality. So basically, to apply a digital overlay to this, in this case, this lady's face. She's putting on something that she thinks funny, and she can use that to send a funny message in Snapchat. But the technology, what it's doing is it's actually, your camera is detecting where your face is. So the first bit where she presses the screen, it's like creating a mesh over her face. That's your phone camera recognizing your where it needs to place the augment. So the augment is the digital piece of information it's putting over it. So you can see in this case, it recognizes where her face is. She puts a mask on or some horns, and she vomits a rainbow. So yeah, okay. I'm sure there's some value in that in some way, but clearly it's used to make these social media platforms really addictive and usable. Another way of doing it is with gaming. So it's a few years ago now, but Pokemon Go became massive, where you were effectively using your phone to explore the environment, and you were finding Pokemons and collecting them, and that was a whole gamified experience. You had to collect different things, but it was all delivered through effectively placing these Pokemons around the world, and you have to go and find them using the phone screen to explore the world. And it was all done by GPS and geotagging. So those augments were placed in certain locations via GPS, and you had to go and find them. So again, I don't know how popular Pokemon Go is today, but you can see how this is creating a gamified experience of exploring the world and doing that through your phone with a digital entertainment factor added to it. Where you will see this a lot now is in advertising and promotion, and where companies are using AR as a way to sell their products to you. So this is going to become potentially really big, because today the classic model of advertising, where you basically take out a TV advert and spend loads of money on an advert that people see during watching TV, is kind of a broken model in the industry, because people are watching catch-up TV. YouTube, if you've got premium, you can have an ad-free experience, etc., etc. So they're trying to reach people with messages digitally, but taking that into the real world using AR to promote and advertise their services. So this video hasn't got any sound, but it's L'Oreal. So L'Oreal basically have a makeup app called Makeup Genius, and what it does is it allows you to use your digital device to effectively try new makeup techniques. So you download the app, as she's doing on the screen now. The phone, basically, the device, the phone or the app, in this case, recognizes your face. So it finds out, it detects where your eyes are, where your lips are, where your ears are, where your chin is, etc. And then it allows you to play about with makeup. So you can select makeup. In this case, she's trying an eyeliner. So it put some eyeliner detail on her eyes, and then she can see what it looks like. So you can try different lipsticks, etc. And you can see she's obviously doing that without actually having done that. So it's a nice way of getting people to interact with L'Oreal products, figure out what works for them or what works well for them, without having to buy every single different shade of lipstick or mascara or whatever it is they're looking at. But you can see for L'Oreal, this is a really useful tool, because it allows consumers to effectively try things, and if they like them, they can then go and buy them. And in this case, she's obviously going to the store to buy it, but you could easily link this up to some kind of e-commerce thing where you literally buy the product straight from the app. So it becomes a commercial ecosystem that's really quite interesting. So yeah, that's makeup. Another application of this that you will have seen if you wear glasses probably is opticians. So you can effectively try a pair of glasses on most optician sites now today, and this uses augmented reality. So you sit in front of your computer screen or your phone or your device, and you effectively find a pair of frames that you like, and you can try them on using the smartphone camera. So your smartphone camera detects your face, and it obviously figures out where your nose and your ears and your eyes are, and it augments the glasses onto your face. And it effectively sticks to your face. So this lady who's trying these glasses on can move her head around, and she can look at the side of the frames, and she can look up and down if she likes, and the glasses stay in the position they were put in. So some really interesting technology going on there, and it's a kind of interesting way of getting people to buy more frames or find a pair of frames that they like. And this kind of technology is allowing opticians to go completely online, because you can effectively have your eyesight done online. And now you can buy your frames online. Probably a little bit of a risk buying a set of frames without actually really trying them on, but you can see how you can digitize your whole offering with this kind of technology. Here are some other uses of augmented reality. So on the left is an example that Heinz deployed for ketchup, where they put a digital trigger on the pack, so that when you scan the front of the phone recognizes the label, and it basically creates a digital experience. And in this case, it gives you some recipes for using Heinz ketchup. So it's a really interesting engagement, giving a little bit of a more deep experience for the consumer. For obviously ketchup's a fairly everyday product, so they're trying to add novelty to that experience of buying that. And presumably, if you suddenly find a new use for ketchup instead of putting it on your chips, like using it in a recipe, then you're probably going to buy more. On the right is a little bit more of a cheeky example where basically did an execution where they used geotagging and image recognition to basically troll Tesco's by saying you could actually get cheaper food at Tesco's. So what this consumer is doing here, they're in the Tesco car park, they basically look through their camera, the camera knows where they are, so they know that they're at Tesco's and wherever they are, and it basically gives you a call to action to go to faster instead, because you get 10% off. So some interesting sort of plays on how you use augmented reality to engage with your consumers here. This is a really nice one from IKEA, called IKEA Place. So IKEA Place again uses augmented reality to effectively try out furniture. So obviously going to IKEA is usually requires a long journey, getting some stuff, bring it home in flat pack, and then you work out whether it looks nice in your room. So what IKEA have done is actually built an app which you can use at home to interact with their catalogue. So it detects your room, and it does that in a really interesting way that allows you to, it detects the scale of your room, it finds where the floor is, and you can effectively place a piece of furniture in your room. So it avoids what these guys are doing, which is buying something too big or having to measure the room in massive detail. It allows you to basically put that piece of furniture in your room, mess about with it, move it from one area to another, and basically try different versions of the products in different parts of your house. So you can see really quite a useful deployment for IKEA, and you can see how it would encourage people to buy products from IKEA. But there's some really interesting technology going on here. So firstly, it has to detect the room. So it's figuring out the size and the dimensions of your room. So when you start the app, you have to kind of like move it around a bit, and it's measuring the room so that it can place that object in your room at the right scale, and then you can move it around. So some really interesting technology, and with a bit of imagination, think about what you do as a business, you can think about how you can use a similar kind of technology in your own situation. Looking at AR for entertainment. So I just tried to screenshot this earlier from my Amazon Prime account, but it actually always blacks out in the background because it doesn't want you to take images from films and movies, etc. But what Amazon Prime is effectively using AR to give you extra information about the things you're watching. So this is The Walking Dead, and it's called X-Ray. So in any given scene on an Amazon Prime video, they have this extra digital information. So in this case, there's a scene with Rick Grimes and Carol, who, she's just driving off after an argument, and I can press the button and get the extra information. So it tells me who those actors are. So if I want to know their names, if I click on Andrew Lincoln, it will go to his Wikipedia and tell me what the films he's been in, how many kids he's got, all that kind of interesting information. It's also telling me other things that are quite clever. So it's telling me that the music playing at that time is a song called Serpents by Sharon Van Etten. So if I heard some music in a film and I wanted to know what it was, it's giving me that information. But it also cleverly, in this case, it can direct me to Amazon Music, so I can actually buy that track. So they're creating like a desire and a way of fulfilling, basically getting people to buy music from this interaction. So this isn't AR using your phone; it's using your TV screen, but it's using digital information to provide further experience of whatever it is you're doing. And in this case, it's watching TV. Okay. Storytelling. So some really interesting ways of using AR to tell stories. And I'm just going to quickly play this one because I think this is really, really cool. It's actually done by the International Red Cross, and it's a different type of augmented reality experience where you actually augment a room in front of someone. So I'll play the video, and then it's only 50 seconds, and I'll tell you what was going on. So hopefully you can hear what's going on here. Okay, guys. So it may not have been obvious what that was, but what this lady's doing, she's obviously walking around the street wherever she is, and through the app, she basically it augments a room in front of her. So the first step in the app is a door appears in front of you, and you can walk through that door using your phone as a viewfinder. You're effectively walking into a child's bedroom. You can use your phone to look around the child's bedroom, so you can go down to the bed next door where she's got on the bed. She goes to the desk, she looks out the window. So you effectively get the experience of being in a child's room. And then what happens is it's supposed to be telling the story of what it's like for a child to be growing up in an urban warfare environment. So it actually tells the story of this child over a number of years. And what happens is each year the bedroom gets more and more degraded, and you hear bombs going off in the background, windows smashing, the phone vibrates in synchronicity with the events that are happening. It basically shows you the impact of warfare on kids, and that's the whole point of the video from the Red Cross. But it's done in a really sensitive and quite emotional way. Actually, I'd recommend you download the app and play with it. But this is obviously one inspiration to tell people about the effects of warfare on kids, which is obviously very valuable. But equally, you could use this in lots of other ways. So you're basically creating an environment, you're creating a room, and you're using an app to do that with augmented reality from a phone. So, for example, if you wanted to train someone to go into a kitchen, you can basically build an AR kitchen, and they could explore that kitchen by going through the door into the kitchen and exploring the cooker, where the bits and pieces of equipment are through their phone. So, really interesting way to create an environment that's entirely virtual. Through augmented reality. This is an interesting, again, we're talking about storytelling here. This is it's basically a walking tour, and users create their own augmented reality. So you basically in a neighborhood, you create a walk, and you can basically take pictures at various points on that walk. And the whole point is that it tells a story about that community and the local history. And in this case, it's somewhere in America, and it's kind of showing a picture of past times at the location you were in. But this is actually, if you live in Hull, I've actually been on this website, and there are some in Hull. So there are some like walking tours of Hull where they use basically you use your phone to do the tour, so it augments the sort of route of the tour on your phone, and then it gives you information and photographs about history as you're walking around. So there are lots of other apps that do this as well, but though it's an interesting way to, again, as I said, tell a story using augmented reality. Again, just like VR, you can use AR for training and education. This is actually an app called Insight Heart, and what this does is it augments a humanoid figure in front of you. And this is all about educating people about what the heart does and how it works. So it augmented a human figure in front of us, and now we've got a heart in front of us, which is basically beating, and we're able to explore it. We can go all around it. We can actually go into it and look at the structure of the heart and see how blood moves from one chamber to another chamber. And we can actually look at this as well to look at what happens in different illnesses. So we can look at what happens to the tissue in myocardial infarction or atrial fibrillation or whatever it is you may be interested in. So ostensibly, this is an education platform, but this kind of technology gives you all sorts of opportunities. If you're, this could be looking at a car engine, it could be looking at a human body, as in this case, it could be looking at a building, and you can create an experience where someone can learn about that. So, it could be about how to do car maintenance. It could be about how to clean windows. There's no limit to the kind of things you could do with it. Here's another educational example where they're using augmented reality to enhance the experience of using a textbook. In this case, it's an archaeological textbook, and what they do is they can actually augment the pieces of the artifacts of archaeology in the room, and in this case, you can actually augment that statue. I don't know which statue it is, maybe someone on the call does. You can actually augment that in the room at full size. So rather than just looking at something on a flat two-dimensional piece of paper, you can actually put it into the room. You can walk around it. You can see it in 3D, like you're in the room with it. So kind of interesting way of showing people things. Another obvious application of this is mapping. So This is actually, and I'm not sure if this is a beta version of Google Maps or it's recently been launched, or whether it's going to be launched soon. But fundamentally, it's taking Google Maps a bit of a step further. So you actually get live instructions to go left, to go right, literally in front of you. So here's a person walking down the street, probably in America somewhere. You can see the classic Google Map view at the bottom with the breadcrumb trail of where to go. But it's now, you can now see that building is actually being augmented in front of this person, and they can see it behind them. So it gives you a much more immersive, and if you're not good at map reading, it's probably an easier way to read maps. So that's an interesting utility for mapping, but it also allows commercial opportunities. So if you had a sandwich bar on Stewart Street, you could have had a deal with Google so that when that person walks past your sandwich store, you could be projecting the food that you make and the products that you can sell them, maybe give them offers, perhaps over time, build a relationship with them digitally. So knowing where people are and giving them this augmented reality experience to communicate is really quite powerful from a commercial perspective. The term you will have heard about when we talked about augmented reality and virtual reality, then hopefully you can see the differences. But you also heard of mixed reality. Basically, mixed reality is really the umbrella term for talking about all of these technologies. So it includes augmented and virtual reality. So if you hear mixed reality, that's what it's talking about. And it can be also used to describe a project which has elements of both. And also there are other types of augmented of reality that I'll talk about, and it would include those as well. But it's basically about blending your actual experience, our normal sensory experience, with new technological experiences, either immersively using VR or more through our device, and in the real world using our phone screens. So again, looking at some of the pros and cons of augmented reality now, one of the amazing things about augmented reality, and the reason why we'll see more and more of it, is before it used to be quite hard to do. So developers would have to pretty much work from scratch to build AR environments, but both Apple and Google have both brought out developer kits. So Apple's is called AR Kit, and I think I forgot what the Google one's called. It's called Air Code or something like that. Anyway, these big tech giants have made it really easy for developers to develop augmented reality experiences now using these developer kits. So as I said, it makes it a lot faster and a lot quicker to make AR applications. So that will effectively power more people doing it. So you'll see an explosion of this happening. The other element of it is this phone, the technology in the cameras in our phone is getting more and more sophisticated, and that's really important for AR because it has to detect surfaces, and the more lenses you have, the better depth perception you have with your camera, so it knows where to place things and put them at the right size and do it quickly in a seamless way. So the technology that the tech giants are providing in terms of AR kit and the hardware they're providing on phones is really creating a perfect storm for an explosion in augmented reality. What is AR good for? It's great for enhancing or creating a new interaction in the real world. So it's taking our familiar experiences, but effectively putting digital skin over them. So giving us more information about the world, and it can give us information about the environment that we're in and data that might be relevant to us. It allows us to manipulate real world images and videos. But what's really good about it is it doesn't require additional hardware. So you don't need a virtual reality mask, which is great because you don't have to pay for it, but you also don't look as daft wearing one. And the other great advantage is you're still aware of the environment you're in and all the sensory inputs you're getting. So you're not taken somewhere else, you're actually still in the world. So what this means is it can be done at quite a low cost, and it can be done very easily because you're not having to buy the equipment, using the developer kit, using the consumer's own technology in their smartphone. That makes it a really interesting way to do something quickly. But it's less immersive than VR. So if you need a really immersive environment, then look at VR. If you want to do something less immersive and have the benefits of ease of delivery, then AR would be a good option to look at. This is just a quick video looking at something from CES. So CES is the Consumer Electronics Show from last year, and this is a company who are using augmented reality to effectively provide information in transport, etc. Again, you can watch these videos from the slides that we give you, but what this guy's doing is he's using a screen in a boat or a car or a plane to provide AR information. It's just like the heads-up display. If you've got a fancy car and you've got a heads-up display, that is telling you how fast you're going down the road. It could be telling you what you're passing, tell you how close you are to the car in front of you. So you can see that these are obviously being deployed already in a lot of different applications in transport. In this case, it can be used as like a tourist thing. So you're in a viewpoint, and it can show you what you're looking at, because it knows how far away you are from different sites, etc. So it's a really interesting way of providing additional information to the experience of pretty much transport and tourism here. So that's the technology in general, but these technologies rely on certain things, and we're going to talk about some of those anchors and triggers here now. So an anchor is really important for AR, because you have to allow AR to be anchored to something. Otherwise, it's just a random digital image floating around in front of you on your phone screen. So in order to put something at the right size and the right scale and with the right perspective and allow you to be able to walk around it, you have to place it somewhere. And this is done with an anchor point. So your phone, like with the IKEA Place app, in that case, it's figuring out how big the room is, and it's detecting a surface. And then once it's detected that surface, it can then place the augment onto it. Once that augment is placed on that surface, it is put in at scale and it stays there. So you can walk around it. So that's just an interesting thing to think about. And as I said, the newer phones or the phones we've had the last couple of years have got really nice depth perception, and they can do this really, really reproducibly and really easily. Whereas if you had an iPhone 1, you probably wouldn't be able to do it, because they wouldn't have that ability to find the anchor point. Triggers are effectively triggers that start an experience. So the trigger that you can see here is actually used by the wine company. I think it's 13 crimes or 19 crimes, sorry. And their whole brand is about this whole sort of outlaw guy who's part of the branding. And when you scan the front of the pack with your phone, the phone detects the trigger that's invisible inside the label, and it basically gets the guy on the bottle to talk. So it's a little bit gimmicky, but equally it could be used to do all sorts of digital experiences. So it could be a story about where that wine came from, what food it goes well with, or if it was a medicine, it could be how to take a medicine safely and appropriately. You just think about whatever you want to trigger, because it can pretty much do anything. It can take you to a website, it can take you to a video. Like in this case, it is basically creating an animation of the guy on the label. But fundamentally, this is done without a QR code. So you could make a QR code the trigger, but the problem with that is they obviously want to have nice looking sort of branding and label on their wine, and they don't want to put an ugly QR code on. So it actually uses a digital watermark. So there's actually a code impregnated in that label, but we can't see it with our eye, but our phone camera can detect it, and that's the trigger that creates the AR experience in this case. Other kinds of triggers are things like beacons. So beacons are dotted all over the place, and they can use near field communications like Bluetooth to basically alert and send messages to phones. So you might be in a transport environment, and when you're walking past the beacon, it will send a push notification to your phone telling you how long how long it's going to take for you to walk from there to the gate where your flight is going, and how quick you might want to run if you're late. Could be in a supermarket, so when you're walking past a shelf, the beacon is telling you that you found something that could be buy this product, here's an offer, etc., etc. So, and again, if you live in Hull, there are beacons at Hull Kingston Rovers ground, and they're there to give you information about the match. So if you've got the Hull KR app, and you walk past the beacon, Hull KR can tell you information about that match, like who's playing, how many caps people have got, all that kind of good stuff. So lots of ways of doing this kind of thing with beacons that are quite interesting. Another way of doing things and creating this like a trigger or an experience is using geofencing. So you can create a geofence around an object or a location, which basically is exactly what it says. It's a fence. It's a digital fence, so you can't see it. So you create a radius around a certain point that when someone enters it, you can talk to their phone and send them push notifications. So in this case, I can't actually figure out exactly what it is, but it looks like some sort of facial massage type thing. So if you're walking around near Central Park there in New York, down whatever avenue that is, there's this company set up a geofence. So they're sending you a notification to say, come and have a face massage. That could be used for all sorts of different applications. So it could be when I leave my house, have I forgotten to set my laptop? If I get 50 meters away from my house and I haven't got my laptop on me, I could be a geofence could be telling me don't forget to bring your laptop along if you're going to work. So, or bring some essential medicine, etc., etc. So there's some really interesting ways of using geofencing to basically interact with people and create triggers. So that's kind of a little bit the state of the art. I'm just going to touch on some of the other things that you might see in the future. So what we've talked about so far is very visual. Usually with visual and video comes sound as well. So you get a visual experience. You can use the sound from a virtual reality headset or your phone. But people are doing some other things that are quite interesting now. So the picture of the guy in the glasses is actually Bose have just brought out smart glasses. Probably been out for nearly 2 years now. Apple are rumored to be bringing out some glasses soon. But this is a whole new way of delivering a mixed reality experience, because in this case, these actually have inductive headphones. So in the arms of the glasses, it's effectively glasses with integrated music. So that's kind of interesting. You can listen to music as you're walking around looking cool with your glasses on. But that sound information can also be used to give you other pieces of information. So instead of visually selling you offers as you walk past the shop, it could be a sound saying, come in, get one coffee free, or it could be directions. So you would imagine this could be really useful if it's with a location app, a mapping app. So instead of walking around looking at my phone screen, I'm just hearing turn left down X street, you're half a mile to your destination. So a really interesting way of providing different types of reality experience through the sense of hearing. Haptics are also, so haptics is a sense of touch, and the top right hand of that screen is actually a piece of smart clothing that has got haptic signals on it. So you can actually use haptics to again create augmented reality or virtual reality experiences. So you're basically getting like vibrations or touches that mean something. So it could be that your left wrist vibrates when you need to turn left when you're riding your bike, or your right wrist, I can't say wrist, your right wrist vibrates when you have to turn right on your bike. So you can imagine that if you're wearing the smart glasses that are telling you what to do, your cycling jacket is vibrating and telling you where to go. You might even have a heads-up display on the glasses that's giving you a visual cue. You can see how these things combine to create a really immersive and potentially, if done sensitively, useful experience. It's not too distracting, like in the video we showed that was about dystopia. So another sense that you can deliver virtually is smell as well. So this is in its infancy really, but this company OVR are effectively developing olfactory virtual reality. So they're combining sense and hearing and smell. So they're creating a really immersive virtual reality experience by giving you, basically stimulating all of your senses. So we can do it visually, you can do it with hearing, you can do it with smell, you can do it with touch. So you can see how if you interlace these things together, could be a really interesting and highly immersive and potentially entertaining experience. So all of that, I'm sure, sounds kind of like futuristic and far-fetched. Some of this stuff exists today, but more stuff's going to become more available. And if you want to use it and use it for your businesses, you need to figure out how to do it. So there are companies, really famous companies who have applications for augmented reality. So Augment and Blipper. The ketchup example I showed you earlier is actually Blipper. So they create ways of connecting, creating triggers for basically augmented reality experiences. So you can go to some of these guys. There are guys in Hull who can do this as well. So you don't have to go to these huge companies who may be quite expensive. You can do it more locally. We have lots of capability in this region with augmented reality and virtual reality. And if you want to pick up any conversations with us, we can help you figure out how to do it. So again, like if you want to do it yourself, as I said, there are lots of agencies, freelancers, and game developers locally. You can provide immersive experience development. You know, can really bring a great brief to life and help you make a really compelling brief to develop your service or product. They can tell you how to anchor or trigger that kind of experience, and then tell you, you know, what kind of devices and things you can deliver that on. And as I said, it can be, rather than working with a company like Blipper, who tends to be quite expensive, you can actually do some of this work for a relatively low budget. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got quite a lot of experience of doing AR and VR for clients, and you know, by doing it in this kind of DIY way, you can do it in a really cost-effective but good way. So I hope you found that interesting. I think I personally think some really interesting things out there. If it's done sensitively and it adds value to an experience, then I think it can be a really great way to improve the way things are done. And Wayne is now going to explain some of the programs that are actually available to help you to make sense of all this. So over to you, Wayne. Is that all right?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Much appreciated. Yeah, guys, I hope that was helpful. I mean, essentially, we're really giving you a top-level overview of these things. Obviously, you can get really in-depth, and we've tried to show you lots of videos and examples today just to try and give you context of how these different realities work. But, you know, virtual reality ultimately is fully immersive. Augmented reality is adding digital stuff on top of the real world to enhance it in some way or to give you information. And a mixed reality is a combination of the two. You can go a little bit further, obviously, in some of the stuff that's overlaid, you can then interact with that, you know, and be able to touch it and move things around, and which is great for training and stuff like that. And I guess the point of what we're trying to get across today is that these immersive technologies are really, really growing, and they're being adopted so much more by businesses to take it beyond the traditional entertainment sphere and become more of a tangible use. So in terms of training or adding extra value to the customer, enhancing the shopping experience, whatever it might be. And there's lots of routes you can go down. We've touched upon, Rob showed you a couple of apps there, Augment and Blipper. Those are essentially apps that you can download on your phone. And I recommend you do download them and just try them and just sort of see if you can get a little taste of the experience of using your phone and trying things out like that. There's some examples we have put in the slide. So when these get sent out, have a look at the videos and things and have a try and play around with them. But if you are in the Humber region, as Rob says, there are agencies and support mechanisms out there to help you figure out how to bring some of this immersive technology into your business. And it isn't really a case of just doing it for the sake of doing it to be cool. You know, you need to be adding value, or it needs to be delivering some form of solution for you. But it can bring lots of solutions, so it's definitely worth looking at. What I would stress is, just in the previous slides there that Rob was showing, it's really hard to do this yourself. It's not really a DIY thing, because there's a lot of you know, in terms of doing it in-house, unless you've got a bunch of developers and things within your business. It really is something that you're more likely going to need to look at partnership with, so some form of agency that works in there, or maybe with a university or something similar that's in your area, and there are lots. And we can certainly help you with that. But you know, you can just Google it and you'll see lots of people in your area. Okay, so that links nicely onto the wider support that's available. As I said at the start of the webinar, the Growth Hub is about supporting businesses with wider business support. These webinars are one to try and give a little bit of insight and a bit of information. So the ICT for Growth webinars, as I said, there's lots and lots of topics and things. Just a couple that are upcoming. So one on Monday, Technology and Digital Company Essentials, where that's actually Adenic that's delivering that on Monday. And then one coming up on the 25th about cybersecurity, and one after that about Zero, so all about online accounting. But, you know, there are absolutely loads that you can go to. And there's a link here, but I've actually posted a link in the chat. So for those that, if you have a look at the chat box at the bottom, you'll find that at the very start of the chat, I've posted 3 links to the Grow My SME website. So if you go to growmysme.co.uk/events, you can see the full list of events and webinars that are taking place. There's absolutely loads on there. Also the main link to the Grow My SME website is there, where you can see all the support available. And then there's a third link that I've posted, which is links to this next one, which I want to talk to you about, which is called the Digital Catalyst. And essentially the Digital Catalyst is a one-to-one support for your business. So consultants like Adenic, and there's a whole range of consultants on board with this, come into your business and work with you one-to-one to try and help you understand digital technology. So where you are at the moment, are you currently adopting digital? And if you're not, where could you be adopting digital to make your business better, safer, grow more, or whatever the case might be, and we can work with you. So the basic process starts like this. You have a digital benchmark. So this is where we essentially do a little bit of a quiz with you to ask you a number of questions to gauge where you're at, what you're currently using, how you're currently approaching it. Is digital built into your strategy? You know, where do you see it at the moment? Off the back of that, we use the results of that to then deliver a one-to-one workshop, and that's usually with you and a few members of different colleagues within your business, so all from different departments. And the idea of this workshop is to run essentially an ideation session to come up with cool ways to enhance your business. It might be to develop new products, develop new services, save money, make things quicker, whatever it might be, and how digital can be used to affect that. And there's lots and lots of solutions out there that you wouldn't even imagine until you get into it. So it's a really good outside input as to where you can adopt that. And then off the back of that workshop, for some reason I've lost control. Off the back of that workshop, we go into like an action plan. So we'll do the workshop, we'll come up with all these ideas, and then off the back of that, we'll kind of give you an action plan to say, okay, so these are what things we found. These are the things that you could be doing. Here's a roadmap of where you can take that. But then rather than just leaving you in that position, the idea is for us to then link you to people that can help you. So that might be, if we discover that an immersive technology would be helpful, we would link you to like a technology provider that's local that can help facilitate and deliver something like that for your business. And we might point you to different amounts of funding or budget management or whatever might be out there from the Growth Hub, and link you to lots of further support that ties in with what we've come up with for your business. Yeah, in a nutshell, this stuff really, this is, it's far from exhaustive, but essentially it's to help you grow and think differently about your business. So it's enhancing your customer offer. It's helping you be more agile. Again, that C word, moving back to the COVID thing, if you can't offer what you're doing today and you have to come up with another way to continue your business, how are you going to do that? And what role is digital technology playing in that? These are the things you need to be thinking about, not just now because we're in this weird period, but actually because that's just the way industry is going and where society is going. We're a digital first world, and we need to be making sure we're adopting this if you're going to survive, thrive, and grow. And that's what this is helping you to do. Also, it's helping, attract, retain staff. It might be helping with your cybersecurity to keep you safe. It might be helping you win more work. The list is endless. It really depends on the nature of your business. Some examples of projects that we might help you with. Again, this is just a taste, so it's far from exhaustive. So, don't take these as gospel. They're just ideas, but it might be moving stuff to the cloud. It might be introducing new cybersecurity. It might be introducing an e-commerce element to your business so you can sell more online or enter into new markets, or maybe export, or whatever that might be. It might be a new way to engage with customers, managing customer relationship management, etc., etc. It really goes on. And yeah, to continue from that, adopting technology, help you overcome some challenges that you might be having. That might be how the cost of running your business and the ins and out that comes from that. It might be integrating with your existing systems and processes. How can we consolidate them? How can we streamline? How can we make them more agile? How can we take things from physical servers and move it into a cloud-based solution so that things are always getting backed up and they can be accessed anywhere? These are all sort of things that we would be looking at. And as I've said, I've touched upon ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to help the business grow. We're trying to help you make more money, develop more profits, be more agile, be resilient, be flexible, and be able to move about. Because ultimately what the Growth Hub want is the businesses in the Humber to be successful. We want you to grow, because then if you can grow, you'll hire more people, the economy grows, and it helps everybody around. So that's what the point of this is all about. So the Digital Catalyst is completely free of charge. It works out about 12 hours of support. So that's probably how much time you're dedicating to it. And, you know, essentially you've got nothing to lose. If anything, it gives you an external input into what your business is doing. And somebody like us can come in and really kind of help guide you into a new sphere. As Rob touched upon at the start, you know, the whole thing with digital is not to replace what you're doing, it's to try and enhance it, add value, and give you new opportunities off the back of it. So we're not saying turn your business off and be something else. We're saying use digital to be more flexible, to be more agile, and to do more with the business. So if you want to be involved in it, here's some details on the screen. Again, I have actually posted a link in the chat. I think Jamie's reposted it at the bottom there, actually. So if you go in the chat box and go to growmysme.co.uk/ICT/digital catalyst, it's the last link that's in the chat. If you put that into your browser, you can register interest, and then the Growth Hub team will contact you and talk to you about getting you on board and getting you enrolled on the program. Or you can ring the telephone number that's on the screen or the email address. But either way, do get in touch and do get involved. You know, ultimately, it's to try and help your business grow. And that's what we're all about. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the webinar. Just before you go, if anybody's got any questions, we're quite happy to answer. Any comments you've got, please fire them through to the chat box now, and we'll certainly try and answer while we're all on screen. But also, just while I'm doing it, I've just stuck a poll up on the screen. If you would be so kind as to just answer the questions that are in the poll, it'll take you just a couple of seconds. We launched this really just to help us understand what type of webinars we want to be delivering. Are you getting value from it? Are these interesting to you? Do we want to be looking at different areas? So if you can give us a little bit of feedback by just ticking the boxes in the poll, that really helps us to make sure that we're launching a good repertoire of subjects basically for you. So that would be really kind if you could do that. And we'll stay online while you're doing that. And if you want to type any questions, fire away. We're here for you to talk to you. Sue, thank you very much. I'm glad you found it informative. Feel free to ask any questions or follow up afterwards. Nick, I think I did reply to you, but yeah, the fact that your 20-year-old is still playing Pokemon is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. You know, as I say, age is just a number, and these immersive environments that we're in, you know, entertainment is a big part of what we need. And if it gets us outdoors, you know, there's an argument for health and well-being. Actually, the Pokemon thing, which was interesting, was the idea was it got kids out and about and running around the city trying to find each of the Pokemon stamps or whatever. So you can actually tie this into a whole wider ecosystem of benefits that go beyond just kind of fun entertainment. You know, so these things are definitely worth looking at. Okay, what I'll do is I'm just going to leave this poll up. If there's no other questions, we'll stay online for the next couple of minutes, but I'll leave the poll up. If you can just finish answering those, that would be really good. If you want to post anything, great, stick it in the chat. If not, then we look forward to seeing you either on the Digital Catalyst program, and hopefully we'll be able to come and work with you directly, or we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. With that, thanks very much to Rob for taking us through that. Thanks, Jamie, for being on board, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks very much. Take care, guys.
Thanks. Bye.